Well folks, welcome to the channel and welcome to another episode. I'm real pumped for today's episode because we get to show you a new ESEE in the Camp Lore line of ESEE knives. We got the JG3, which stands for the James Gibson 3. James Gibson is a custom knife designer, and he recently got together with ESEE to make a production design, and that's what we got here today. So this is the very first knife in the new for 2015 ESEE Camp Lore line. I'm really excited. We're going to try and get our hands on the other ones here in the future that they are coming out with, but this is the very first one in the line, and I'm real pumped to show you what this definitely Camp Lore, you know, that's the name of the line that ESEE's coming out with, Camp / Bushcraft knife is going to be good for, because most of ESEE's knives, they're really tactical knives when you get right down to it. They're survival tactical knives, not really camp / bush knives. So that's what this Camp Lore line is supposed to start to accomplish, is start to have knives that are much more geared towards camping / bushcraft. So that's what we got here with the JG3. So we're going to get out here today, look it all over, test it out. We've had it for a few months now here in the Blade Boot Camp, and I've had a really good chance to really thrash on this thing, get a really good feel for it. I'm going to run in the Azula 2. I know a lot of you probably are wondering, hey, I own an Azula 2. Is this going to be worth upgrading? Or you own an ESEE 3 and it's worth upgrading? We're going to talk about all that today. So you want to stay tuned throughout this video. This is going to be awesome, and I'm just super excited to review this ESEE JG3. So with that being said, let's get to it. All right, let's just run you through some basic specs here real fast on the JG3 before we get into it here. We're looking at an overall length of 7.625 inches from front to back. We're looking at 3.5-inch cutting edge. We're looking at 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch thick, full tank construction, micarta handle scales, and this blade weighs in at 4.3 ounces, just the blade, and 6.5 ounces with the sheath. USA made 1095 with a 90-degree spine, stonewash finish. So guys, those are just a few of the basic specs here on the JG3. Very nimble blade on the wood when you're using it, which is great for camp tasks or bushcraft tasks. All right, folks, let's go ahead and talk about the ergonomics and give you the ergonomic rating here on the JG3. Now, the JG3 right out of the gate is very ergonomically designed, very natural lines and lines that you would see in any of James Gibson's custom blades. This handle looks very similar to what he does as kind of his, you know, kind of flair to the ergonomic setting. Now we're looking here at micarta handle scales that have been bolted in, machined very well, nice and rounded. They're not blocky or kind of squared off at all. They feel very comfortable in the hand in that sense, and good micarta traction, not overly aggressive, but not you know, non-existent polished tooth, you know, too slick either. That doesn't exist. And what we're looking at here is a thickness on these micarta handle scales of 0.54 inches, so just over 1/2 inch thick, and we're looking at a length of just over 4 inches, 4.125 I believe is the length on the handle. Now I wear large size gloves, as you can see there, fits real nice, and I got about 1 inch off the back end. Just really cups my hand well. You can see there how that neck just fits real nice around my index finger, then that palm swell goes right over my 2 other fingers, and then my pinky's getting into that kind of groove again. It just really locks you into place. In a hammer grip, this is one of the most ergonomically designed handles I've felt in this size range. I mean, just wow, really comfortable. Now the thing to note is that that neck is rather thin, so for those of you, it's the same thickness as like an Azula 2, so just kind of keep that in the note, but it is going to be thin, particularly for those of you with like XXL or XXL size hands. I could see that you might have kind of a difficulty with your bigger fingers trying to wrap all the way around and get a good grip, but for me with my large size hands, feels fantastic, great grip, great traction, and no hot spots. I mean, I can use this for an extended period of time. You know, in camp lore, being a camp / bushcraft knife, you want to be able for it to be very ergonomic for a very long period of time, and that's the case with this JG3. The one thing to note is when you are doing a reverse grip, it's not quite as easy to do that. I mean, it'll fit inside the hand, but it's just a little more awkward when you are doing reverse chest lever grips. It's not quite designed for that. You can do it for a while, but you know, it's not like just a straight off the back handle, but it is going to be extremely ergonomic, guys. So I am going to be giving this a 4.5 out of 5 on the ergonomic rating for this JG3, and really I'm only dinging that half point because it's a little awkward for me to try and get that reverse grip. If it had a little bit straighter handle off the back, it would have been perfect. But in a hammer grip, it is phenomenally ergonomic and wonderful in the hand. Well, folks, this is going to be a real fast, easy one. Quality on the JG3 is a 5 out of 5. Very easy to do. It's an ESEE. I mean, come on. If you've ever used an ESEE knife, you know you're getting premium quality for the materials and for the price point, you know, in that right around $100 range. It's really hard to find companies that will produce the level of quality with these type of materials at that price point like ESEE can. So great stuff, quality, out of the park, 5 out of 5 for the JG3. All right, sheath time here on the JG3. They went with leather, which I'm not excited about. I'm excited about everything else on this knife, but not the leather sheath. Leather's just not my preference, guys. I know there are many of you out there that love it. That's awesome. I just don't like it because it tends to wear out over time. Now, granted, a lot of other materials will as well, but you know, it holds water a lot, and where I live in the Rocky Mountains, I get rained on almost every afternoon during the summertime. And then in the wintertime, I'm in snow, so this is picking up lots of moisture, gonna hold the moisture on a 1095 blade. It's just not good, it's just not my preference. I would prefer molded plastic or Kydex when it's done right, like ESEE tends to do with all of their other knives. All their other knives are fantastic and have some of the best production sheaths out there on the market, regardless if it's their molded plastic or their Kydex, depending on the blade you purchase. So I really wish that that was the case with this knife. As it stands right now, you are getting a basic taco design friction held sheath. It's got the, again, the logo right there, Camp Lore logo, USA made, so that's really nice, it says USA made right there. Good box weave stitching, very large loop right there that'll easily go on 2-inch belts. I love that it rides level with the loop, that's all good. And it is friction held, it's not gonna fall out, but if I begin to shake it, it will. So the friction is not very good. It'll barely get the job done, but if you do any sort of friction, like, you know, running around, or you were to kind of sit awkwardly and this was just bumped ever so slightly, it could easily fall out. So the retention isn't all that great for the friction on this leather sheath. So it barely gets the job done, and again, molded plastic or Kydex would have been my preference. So I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5 on the sheath rating for the JG3. Again, I'll say it a couple times more, probably. I really wish that this had come with Kydex or molded plastic, but as it stands, it'll get the job done till you can upgrade. All right, so today we're gonna do a spring snare. We found a really good flexible aspen right here. This is gonna be our main, you know, spring point to pull the trigger. We got our paracord, we got our JG3, so we're gonna make our little attachments and set this little trap. All right, so here's my first piece. I'm gonna split this, and I'm gonna be looking at probably about a 6-inch, 7-inch piece right here is what I'm gonna shoot for. Okay, so we have our 2 pieces here. One is gonna be paracorded to the tree, that's gonna be the spring, and the other one I'm gonna make a spike, and that'll be hammered into the ground. They're each gonna have a notch, so I'm gonna show you how to do that first, and then we'll kind of walk you through it here. So this is the spike that we're gonna be hammering into the ground. A lot of people don't know this, but it's always good to kind of keep one side consistent. You're kind of making that spike over at an angle. That will make the strength go all the way through the entire spike. Well, instead of making it, you know, to a point, we'll actually make this spike stronger than doing it the other way. So it's pretty good there. Now we're gonna do our notch. Okay, so we're doing pretty good on our notch here. I'm gonna kind of make sure that it's nice and clean up to it, because the other piece of wood is gonna have to fit underneath this lip basically. So I just want to make sure I'm trying to get as much of the material leading up to it out of the way, so it'll seat real nice in there as possible. Again, this is why green, or just having dyed this aspen just dyed, is good, because it's pretty soft and it's not going to chip out on me, and then I'm gonna have to start again. So it's really good. It's malleable. Okay, so here's our ground spike that's going to go in the ground with its really nice notch there. So I'm going to do the exact same thing basically, and this one is going to be the one that's attached to the paracord. It's going to fit in and be, you know, having tension up on these two notches pulling against each other. And I'll show you how those fit together here in just a moment after we're done doing this notch. All right, so we've completed this. So these are going to fit in here just like this. And I'm just going to make a little notch to wrap around the paracord, because this is going to be pulling up with the tension from the tree. And we're going to be set up and we're going to put it in the ground. Okay, so here we go. We got our tree. And now I got to kind of figure out where I'm going to, you know, hammer the spike into the ground. So I'm just going to bend this sucker all the way over. I've got a pretty good judge of where I want it to be. I'm going to tie it right around here on the tree. And so I'm going to want it right about there. So I'm just kind of marking the ground. Now I'll let the tree back up, and let's set this up. Okay, so if I was out here by myself, I would probably only pick 1 or 2 strands out of my paracord and gut it and use it if I was trying to get, you know, like a rabbit or a squirrel, which is about the size that this is going to be able to handle. For this demonstration, I'll just use the full paracord. Okay, so I've just made a simple, you know, catch knot there basically, or catch loop. And so now I'm going to leave that open, you know, and you just got to kind of think about what size game you're going to be, you know, getting. You don't want it too big, you don't want it too small. I'd say probably about double the size of your fist. And again, this is just me. This is my very first time building this trap, so this is me just kind of learning with you guys here on the channel. So now that I have that, I'm going to go out just a little bit, and that's where I'm going to wrap it around my trigger. I'll tie a simple knot for that. So here we go. So here's the kind of the setup. So this is going to fit right underneath there. I'm going to lay out the area of the snare that's going to catch the foot of the animal, and then this portion is I'm going to tie to the tree. Okay, so we got some really good resistance. We're all set up. Now I'm just going to basically set the trap, and I'm just going to get that lip just good enough to where it's going to stay right. You can see there. There we go. And now you can see here is the snare loop that's going to catch the animal. Here's the trigger. We even got some nice branches just kind of covering it. Now my scent is all over this, so if we're going to be real about this, you know, I'd want to either figure out some way rubbing it, the paracord and the tree area and everything, and these pegs with dirt, and if I had a fire going, you know, to put smoke around, you know, try and get some smoky, you know, branches or something like that, just to kind of get as much of my scent as possible away from it. So that is something to note. And finally, to my knowledge, you know, unless you're in a survival situation or you have a trapping license, you know, don't be going and doing this and actually trying to catch animals. It's illegal, and that's trapping, to my knowledge, unless again you have a license or you are in a life or death situation. It's fine to practice, but don't really try and attempt this without, you know, having the appropriate license or in a life and death situation. So with that being said, let's go ahead and zoom out, and we're going to trigger this trap. Boom. Check that out. Nice, quick. And the JG3 did a fantastic job. I mean, that's really what this knife is set up to do. Or a task like this, I mean, pass with flying colors, and would be a great knife to build traps. And, you know, smaller, detailed work like this was fantastic with this JG3. All right, folks, I want to do the value now on the JG3 and talk to you about the value. And I wanted to run in the Azula 2 from ESEE, just to kind of give you some size perspective. And I know a lot of you may already own the Azula 2, so you're wondering, should I buy the JG3? Or you may not own either of these and you're trying to decide which one will be better. Now, I wanted to do a complete comparison video for you, portion of in this review, but that would take an extra, 5 or 10 minutes, and that would make this video 25, 30 minutes, and I don't want to do that. So the same day that I'm posting the review on the JG3, I will be doing a separate video just comparing these two knives and showing you the pros and cons of both of them to help you make a wise purchasing decision between these two. In this portion, I'm just going to talk value and give you the value rating on the JG3. Now I'm going to use Amazon as a plumb line because that's where I purchased both of these, so we can kind of get a good idea. Now the the Azula 2 I purchased for $68 on Amazon, and the JG3 I purchased for $105 on Amazon. So we're looking at almost a $40 difference. And when I started thinking about it and what the JG3 offers versus the Azula 2, is it worth the extra almost $40? And when I really started thinking about it, I'm not sure. I think the JG3 is a little bit overpriced because we're looking at micarta handle scales, 1095 high carbon steel. Now they did spend more time contouring the handles on the JG3 than they did on the Azula 2. The Azula 2, is just simple straight off the back, but they're the exact same material, micarta, 1095 for both these blades. Yes, the Azula 2 is a little bit shorter, but it's a little bit thicker. And they put traction coating on the Azula 2, which means more time, more material for production, whereas the stonewash finish on the JG3, you don't really have to worry about that, and should take less time. You don't have to bake it on or spray it on and deal with all the drying and all that other stuff that it goes into putting a traction coating. So the Azula 2 should almost cost more than the JG3. Now production as well, the molded plastic sheath on the Azula 2 is probably a lot easier and cheaper to produce than the leather sheaths that we're looking at here on the JG3. These probably cost more and take a little bit more time to produce. So honestly guys, this is the bottom line, is that the JG3 at $105 versus the $68 on an Azula 2, I think is about $20 overpriced right here. I think the JG3 should be more around the $85 mark than the $105 mark. That would have made it a little bit more tolerable for me. It's still a great knife, and obviously you get what you pay for, and if you like the design, it doesn't really matter the price point. But for me personally, when we're talking about rating this against other knives out there on the market, and particularly even from ESEE, yeah, it's just somewhat overpriced, guys. So I'm going to give this a value rating of 3 out of 5 for the JG3, and hopefully as time goes on, maybe the price point will drop a little bit as it becomes a little bit more accessible. But right now, a little overpriced in my opinion compared to other knives out there on the market. Well folks, it's time for us to wrap up this review on the JG3. I really hope that you have enjoyed seeing this knife in action. I'm really just pumped that ESEE is starting to make these more bushcraft camp style knives and not just the tactical stuff that they've been doing for quite a while. So I'm really pumped to see what else that they have in their other designs. And again, we're going to try and get our hands on them ASAP. As soon as they become available, I'll be purchasing those as well. So as we wrap this up, I'm going to give you my likability on this knife. I think this is a phenomenal bush camp knife. I think it gets a lot of tasks done for you. My likability is 4.5 out of 5, and I'm only digging at that half point, honestly, because of the leather sheath and the kind of steep price point for what you're getting. So other than that, though, guys, I mean, this is a phenomenal knife, and if you've been thinking about the JG3, this is going to be a fantastic blade. I love it, and I'm going to probably end up having to get some sort of custom kydex for it. I love it that much. So, guys, hopefully that this review has helped you out in your purchasing decisions. As always, check us out on all the relevant social media. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video, and as always, remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.